Now let me turn off back face culling so we can see the back of those shirts. Yeah, put some fantastic luxurious hair there, and that is me with club hands. So, we'll get started on that. Okay now, so we're at the point where we're going to be modeling hands, and this is where we need to have a little bit of a discussion. As you can see, club hand is not doing it. So we have to go with another hand, and this hand might look similar because it's pretty much the five-fingered hand from the female model. I always tend to model hands the same way unless I'm in ZBrush or something else, and when you model them this way, you can always use your own hand as a reference. Just hold it naturally out and don't try and keep it straight or anything, just see how it folds. You can see how I have the fingers set up. And you can probably guess how I modeled it based on this one, where I didn't really change or re-topo the geometry too much on the top. You can see that it started out as just a cube, coming out here, division here, and then I extruded outward again, folded those edges into the side, and then made fingers. And I just made them look like fingers by extruding outward. These details right here were just me adding edge loops and forming it to be more comfortable when it starts bending. And so there's less stretching. But let's look at the try count here. So we're at 186 for this hand. And we're going to have two of them. I hope. I mean, 372 tries? And the entire character is, well, 776 now. So, this is a little bit, too much detail than we really need. So what are some good options? Well, we could go with the mitten hand. Really good video game classic. Or we can go with what I like generally, which is a combination of both. It's really great for games that involve a trigger finger or some type of shooting, because, especially if you're switching weapons, because then you won't have to switch hands, which does happen sometimes, where you'll take in a mesh of a hand differently. This hand can be used for a gun or a sword. It has just enough detail where it can point, or, give a peace sign, or the middle finger. So, it's quite versatile. I mean, this hand, really, what do you use the ring finger and the pinky for? I'd rather cut mine off. Well, not really. I really wouldn't. But I could make him a mitten, the model. I mean, this one, it's helpful, and it's down to 100 tries. Almost. And we could probably bring it down even further. But, really, what can we use it for? It wouldn't look right if it was holding a gun. It'd probably look right if it was holding a tube, like a sword. But, it can't wave, and it'll look unnatural if it tries to, do Spock hand or something else. So, I think I'm going to go with this one. It's 150 tries on the dot. It's only going to push up about 300. And since we're at a total of around 776, which will be about 700 and... I don't know, let me knock these off. How many are these? 56? 90? Yeah, I might as well get rid of them. No, I'm handless. Okay, so if we get rid of those, we're at 720. Adding 300 tries exactly to that. I think it's a pretty good worthwhile investment, especially if our hands are going to look good. Now, here's something you need to know. When I was talking about silhouette, remember, we're still only worried about silhouette. If you look at the distance, some of those hands can be pretty decent for a silhouette, especially if they spread out all their fingers. But let's think about what the size of our camera is going to be and what the size of our screen is going to be. If it's an iPhone, we're not going to be really close to the hand at all. It might even be this tiny at times. And if it was, you can't really see a difference between the club hand and anything else. Now, if your character is going to be closer, just even a little bit closer, you can start seeing the detail of fingers, and especially the spread of fingers. So that's where you want to change to these two. Now, if you're really close up and there's a lot of, hand movements and gestures, or if you just need the extra digits if they're like playing piano, or you have some type of rhythm game where you are showing the hands. You're going to need all 5 fingers. But I think we can do really well with just this. If it was, I don't know, an action-adventure game where I'm jumping around landscapes, my character is going to be pretty close to the screen. He's probably going to take up about a sixth of it. So this would look pretty good. And that's what we're going to go with. Again, it was just modeled by making a simple cube, popping a division down it, and extruding outward, and then extruding out the thumb and forefinger areas, and just shaping it into a hand shape. It seems really, really complicated because people tend to think hands are really flat things, and they'll sculpt the thumb out here, and they'll make the hand sit straight out. But if you just imagine a hand sitting naturally, you know a thumb comes from underside of the hand. And if you want to make it even easier for yourself, make the fingers first. Then figure out how to attach them to the palm. That's generally a much easier way. So I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to attach this hand, and I'm going to duplicate it to the other side and attach that. And then we'll see if we can look into getting hair on this guy, or at least some placement hair, just to get an idea of how it's going to look. And that'll pretty much be it. Oh yeah, just to clarify, when you're putting a human hand onto your characters, always tend to make them a little bit bigger than what would actually be there. This is because, again, human fallacy, we like to imagine our hands are much bigger than they really are. When we speak with our hands. When we talk to people, we're generally moving and gesturing. And in video games, we always tend to think the hands are extensions of our own. So, when you're making hands, don't make them the natural size, which would look really awkward. I mean, I'll show you an example. Probably a realistic hand. Looks okay, but look how tiny it is. I mean, and I have dainty hands. In a video game, that's just going to feel weird. So, generally, just make them a little bit bigger. Players feel more comfortable with them, and they feel less like they're controlling a doll. Also, if you're making a game and you're animating things, it makes animating a lot easier, and since we're going to be exaggerating things anyways, we might as well. I mean, we're not trying to make photorealistic models here. We're trying to make something fun. And it's for games, so trust me on this one. Make hands a little bit bigger, not too large. I mean, this is going to look obscene. Don't give them Hulk hands, but just a little bit of an increase will make your players feel more comfortable. And visually, it will look, they'll start thinking of it more as an extension of themselves than as a game character. Humans are weird. Here we go. The hands are duplicated to both sides, attached in a believable way. Although I haven't welded the vertices or anything like that, so there'll still be a little bit of shading issues. Let's see what it looks like as a silhouette. We can generally just turn off our lights and see how it looks there. I'm not sure how well that will show up on YouTube though, so we'll go ahead and just do it the old-fashioned way. That looks pretty good. Now remember, the hands are much larger than a normal hand. I mean, if we take this one and move it around, I'm sure you've all seen this trick done before. That hand's huge! I mean, that looks like a larger man's hand is trying to grab my face. But before I did that, you looked at the hands and they seemed alright, correct? If we made it the actual size. Well, just doesn't feel right. Again, humans are weird. Well, look at that. We're already at 1,020 triangles. See, now isn't it a good thing we decided we were going to stick to around 700 for about the head and the body? See, it seems weird at first, but once you start using them, you run out of them really quickly. So, how are we going to do the hair? Well, there's two options. We can make planes, and we can add alphas to them, and that'll give you a generally pretty, if you do the hair correctly, it'll give you a pretty realistic way to make hair. But if your engine doesn't support alphas, which seems weird, but it happens, like the GS is pretty weird with alphas, then how are you going to implement hair? Well, again, you can model a solid block. Let's see. Do I have an example we can show you? Yeah, give me 1 second. I, for the life of me, cannot find one good example online of sculpted hair. And, well, I didn't spend too much time looking, but I feel bad, so here is that female head again. It only had a little bit of sculpted hair on it because the rest was hidden by a helmet. But this is generally the process I used. You know, think of them as tendrils or tentacles that came out. And then you just paint them like hair. It can sometimes look really, really good, and especially if you have long hair or really thick hair, it's a fantastic way to do it. The problem, though, is it takes polys. And if you have them to spare, and I don't think we do, although we can try it, you know, just that little tuft right there takes 30 tries. I mean, imagine putting this all around me. You know, let's see, 30 here, actually 36 here, 36 here. Yeah, we'd build it up pretty fast, and then I guess what we could do is just do the old trick where you just gather the scalp and extrude it outwards, but that always looks bad. I mean, I'll show you what that trick is. This is told to me, this is how you do hair. And I remember when I heard it and I saw the result, I was just shocked, because it looks horrible. No one in their right mind does things this way. Oh yeah, and then we'll add tendrils. Yeah, that looks like me, right? And it's horrible. Don't ever do that. If I were going to sculpt hair, I generally start making strands of it like this, and then I attach them to the scalp. And then if the scalp needs to be raised a little bit for the group of hair, then I just do that. But I never extrude large quantities like that. It always looks bad. So no matter what we do, we're going to need hair back here, or painted hair, depends which hairstyle I go with. We're going to need hair coming around the eyes, over here, and over here. Oh man, we need to make ears too. Those are easy. So ears are just honestly a quad that we divide, we shape into an ear shape, and we're going to texture the ear there. We might extrude it a little bit, just so we can get depth in there. But you should never really worry about ears. Even when you're making high poly ears, they're really easy. It's just people make them out more difficult than they really are. It's attaching them that's the problem. So, video is getting kind of long, so I'm probably going to stop it here. I'm going to think about how I'm going to do the hair. Might even see what you guys want to do. I can do either. And the alpha hair will not look like hair until we get to texturing it, which is the next step. Well, unwrapping is the next step. And the modeled hair, the sculpted hair, will pretty much look like hair, but it's going to be thick, and it's going to be game hair. So, depends. What do you guys want to see? Worst case scenario, I'd try both. Whee! Okay, thank you. Be sure to ask me any questions if you have any. It's valentinoistony@gmail.com or valentinoz on Twitter, Reddit, or I don't know, I haven't got that on YouTube yet. Feel bad. Oh well. Have a good night.